what's going on, Los Angeles? What is up? And welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network. We are live on the Mighty 1090 ESPN Radio. Happy Thursday evening if you're on podcast. Happy Friday evening if you're on radio listening to this. Hope everyone is doing well. It's getting a little cloudy here in the LA area. Don't know if the rainfall is going to start coming down again. I didn't see rain in the forecast, but there's pretty dark clouds, Skinny Tees. So we'll see if that starts coming down. But got a great show talking all things Rams for you today. We'll get into the rundown here in just a minute. But first and foremost, my partner in crime, Ryan Skinny Tanner. So what's up, brother? How we doing?
Still bummed. They got Indianapolis on TV. They're showing all the festivities. They're showing the stadium. They're showing the skyline. Yeah.
We're sad, Jason.
Yes,
Jason,
still sad.
Our biggest listeners. We're sad.
Yeah, but we're persevering. We're still having a good time. So, talking football. Can't beat that.
I guess it was meant to be for me because I've been sick as a dog all week. So that would have been a rough sledding out there anyway. So I guess it was meant that I was supposed to stay home.
Yeah, it works out. Yeah, no problem.
Or I got sick because I stayed home. Maybe if I would have gone there, I wouldn't have gotten sick. So maybe it's the opposite effect. Maybe I should be real angry, yelling at clouds. But anyway, we're persevering. We're getting through plenty of Ram stuff to get into. A lot of good stuff, content out there, and obviously rumors. Nowadays, it's like it's such a fun event to be at, but you don't have to be there to get the news because it travels so quickly via Twitter or X nowadays. So plenty of stuff to talk about. But today we're getting into, here's the quick rundown for you, brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a welcome bonus up to 50% on all your favorite sports betting needs. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. We are going to talk about Skinny Tees, 4 players to watch at the Combine. Last episode, if you missed it, we broke down the edge position, the center position, and the cornerback position for you to watch. So go check that out. I don't know if you'll have any of those categories. I'll leave it as a mystery for now. But 4 more players to watch the Combine that are intriguing for the Rams purposes. We're also going to talk about the USC and UCLA prospects that might be good fits for the Rams. So keep it LA-centric for that. More center news. It kind of gives it away here, but we'll dive into it. Coleman Shelton opted out of his contract. So as of right now, the Rams have goose egg centers on the roster. So that will be a big point of emphasis moving forward. And finally, the NFLPA rankings came out. Rams did not do great. We'll get into those and talk about how much validity those actually do have. So with the rundown done, thank you, BetOnline, for your friendship and sponsorship. We already got our salutations out of the way. Let's just dive right into it. Starting with your first one, your first prospect you're excited to watch. As drills are going on as we speak, the big boys, D linemen and linebackers are performing at Lucas Oil.
Yeah, Byron Murphy on the radar. Big athlete, 300 pounds, running fast. Chris Jenkins, too. I'm excited about those two guys. But
I love
either of those.
Not to cut you out, I love Byron Murphy runs I think he ran like a 4.88 40 for a big fella, which is great. Everywhere on Twitter, locked top 15 pick. I'm like, I love how a 40 time locks a big guy in. Like, it's silly, but anyway, go ahead.
If any franchise is using actually what's happening on the grass today to pick their players, the process is bad. They've made a bad process. Rams aren't even there. But moving along, my thought process is kind of later round draft picks, third day draft picks, which is where the Rams have kind of made, buttered their bread, as I like to say. A lot of good third day prospects have come out of there. A roster hole that we haven't really talked about that might be a problem for the Rams heading into the season is Jordan Fuller is a free agent. There's some talk that they're looking to re-sign John Johnson rather this season. But here's my first to watch safety for the Combine. Josh Proctor out of Ohio State, 6'1", 198 pounds.
Jordan Fuller's alma mater. So why not go back to the well?
Yeah. Good size, good enough speed. I like that he's a Power 5 guy, lots of experience, and a physical defensive back. So those kind of all check the marks for me. Played a lot of football, so he's got that nice high football IQ, good size. And one of the things that the Rams defensive backfield has been lacking is that physicality. Russ Yeast brings it. Quentin Lake's getting better at it, but this guy, he's a guy that doesn't mind laying the wood. So.
Love it.
What do you think about safety position? What do you think about some guy like this?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, obviously, Ohio State produces great defensive backs in general. We've seen over the years that a lot of good prospects, whether it's early rounds, you can go back to, looking at Bradley Roby as a first-round corner, or later rounds. As you mentioned, Jordan Fuller, sixth-round pick, and what he's meant to this Rams team. And hopefully they can get him back. But why not go back to that well? I was going to ask you, is there a world where, if they don't, I mean, they're going to have to add someone, because if you lose both Johnson and Fuller, those are not only your two starters, but that's just two bodies. But is there a world where they kind of just roll with what they got and not even, look at the draft class? Or do you think no matter what, they'll probably add a back-end guy in the draft in this class?
I mean, based on what they've done in the past, they've always added safeties and cornerbacks. I think it's not going to be any different this year around. And, one of the things, you look back at the safeties that they have drafted that have become starters, they don't stick around past their rookie contracts. So John Johnson's one of them. Taylor Rapp is another one. Is Jordan Fuller going to be the next one? I don't know. I can't say that, but based on just kind of their track record, I would not be surprised if they allow him to move on. So I think definitely they're going to go with safety at some point. Josh Johnson, I think, was a third rounder. I don't know if they go that high. But this is Proctor is a guy that's going to be in the third day, so they can get him fifth round, sixth round, maybe somewhere in there. So really good value. And if they can continue their track record of turning, these, mid to late draft picks into, good starters, that's the way to go. If there's no reason to pay a guy extra money, you could get that cap savings. And, they, like I said, they do have that good track record.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another safety we'll talk about here in a little bit that I think could be a fun fit for the Rams, but they'd have to obviously get him a little earlier in the draft. So, all right, who you got next?
All right, let's stay on the defensive side of things. I got to bring another Golden Domer up. I didn't mean to. I didn't try to, but J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame. 6'1", 235. The thing that I like about him is 2 years as a team captain, 3 years as a starter. And the reason I'm looking at linebacker is Ernest Jones is coming up on his rookie contract. And also the depth behind him is a little bit suspect. So he missed one game last year, Green Bay game. Turned out that was the game that the Rams defense allowed the most rushing yards of the season, over 180 yards on the ground from Green Bay. And that's in part due because that Ernest Jones wasn't on the field and Christian Roseboom was on. Christian Roseboom missed 2 tackles in that game. Ernest Jones missed 2 tackles all year. So, they got to start looking into, depth at that position. And I like Bertrand at that position. I love guys that are team captains, especially team captains that come from these big schools. Because he wasn't the star player for Notre Dame, but he was their leader. So that's the kind of guys I get excited about.
Love it. Yeah. I was trying to look in front of me. I don't know if you have it in front, but I'm curious how many, in terms of tackling stats, Bertrand, what his missed tackle percentage or what it looked like last season. But I mean, getting another sure-handed tackler obviously is, you can never have too many of those guys. And I think the Rams have always, I don't want to say always, but especially in the Sean McVay era, they've de-emphasized, linebacker position and especially linebacker depth, right? Like they kind of have one guy that's always pretty solid. And obviously that guy now is Ernest Jones. They brought, our good friend over from Seattle down for one season, who's obviously going to be a future Hall of Famer. And then they realized what they had in Ernest Jones. They let him go. So they've never really emphasized having like 2 solidified backers, and they've gotten by okay. They've always had like, pretty good defenses based on scheme and stuff. But yeah, if you can get another guy that can be next to Ernest Jones when you do have a 2-backer set, or if you're running with that one backer set, but either Jones needs a blow or he does, God forbid, miss a game, you're not trotting out a guy that's a practice squad guy, essentially, which is what they've been doing the last few years. So I like that. Bertrand, I think, would be a very nice addition, and probably get him in the much later rounds, as you alluded to.
Yeah, probably 7th round. According to PFF missed tackles stats, which I don't really like, they're a little bit too generous with their missed tackles. He did have 13 missed tackles, 29 assist tackles, and 39 solo tackles. So if that
whole
is
season though,
yeah,
that's not terrible.
Yeah, I usually go by Pro Football Reference for their missed tackle references for their stats, but PFF is just a little bit too generous for my taste. All right, let's hop over to the offensive side of the ball.
Just to make a point here, because I don't want everyone to freak out, because you said they put 13 missed tackles. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I agree. They do, like, because we've looked at even like Kobe Turner's sacks were like different on PFF than they are like actually the actual statistics. So I don't know what's going on there. So it's not. That's why we always say never take PFF as the Bible. It's a nice tool, but to reference it, his 13, Mason Cobb. If anyone follows USC here, USC defense was atrocious. Love Mason Cobb. I'm really excited to see him in this new DeAnton Lynn defense with Matt Entz as linebacker coach. But he had, according to PFF, 29 missed tackles. So more than double.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps anyone. But for a 7th rounder, I think you're okay.
Helps with the context. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with a guy that's a captain, you do trust that he is a developer. He's a guy that's listening to his coaches. He's coachable. He wants to improve. So bringing a guy on that even just has that kind of mentality, I like that. So we know they're going to go for a running back at some point. This is a late round guy.
Heard it here first.
Yeah. So the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, Isaiah Davis.
Jackrabbits.
Yeah. Really good production the last 2 years, over 1,400 yards, both seasons, 18 touchdowns, I think 16 last year. So what I like about this guy is a good size, 6 feet, 220 pounds, good speed. He's going to run about a 4.5, I assume, somewhere around there. They call him a workhorse back, but he won't be that in the Rams offense. He's going to be behind Kyron Williams. But, what I like about this guy is he's got good size, 6 feet. Kyron Williams is kind of 5'9" or so. Bringing 220. So just a guy that's constantly falling forward, pushing the pile, got good explosiveness, good power behind him. And I think that's something that would benefit the Rams offense for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, we know they're going to add a running back. It's just the form. I'll stand corrected if they don't, but I'd be shocked if they don't draft a running back. They have 11 picks. Of those 11 picks, one will be a running back, I think, at some point. And so I think this would be a good one. And we'll talk about another one here in a little bit. But what are you seeing in terms of like round projection? Probably very late, right? 6, 7?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, he's going to be a day 3 guy for sure. Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, home run. Why would you not do that? So you just keep going to the well, keep seeing how you can develop and get these guys reps. And like we said last episode, you got to have some good depth behind Kyron Williams, who we love, who's great, but he's been injured his whole career thus far, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I brought up Audric Estime last episode. We got a peeker.
Yeah, you see that? Creepy face. What are you doing? Yeah. For those on radio, my daughter snuck on in here to say hi, but anyway, continue on.
There's good running backs to be found in the 2nd and 3rd round. What's great about this class is it doesn't really start until then. So some of the top guys are going to be going off at the back half of the 2nd round. So if the Rams do want to take a chance in the 3rd round, 2nd or 3rd round, 3rd round, they got 2 picks, somewhere in the 80s, and then I think pick 100. So yeah, I think, this is a good year to kind of invest in that in those middle rounds and late rounds. I don't know if you have. We'll talk about another guy, but I'm going to hop over, staying on the offensive side. Question for the Rams offense is what's going to happen in the future for the wide receivers. Demarcus Robinson just on a 1-year contract. You got Cooper Kupp. We're never sure exactly where he is. He's over 30. When does he peak? When does he turn the corner? Is he going to be healthy for this season or not? But drafting a wide receiver, gotta like that. This guy here, this is the kind of guy like Bub Means from Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh. Bub Means, 6'1", 220 pounds, but 40 time under 4.4 speed.
Okay.
So, definitely, the outside receiver. You got Puka Nacua in that inside position. You got Demarcus Robinson on the outside. I think this guy would be a perfect complement in the offense. Adding that speed, you got Tutu Atwell, who, seemed to start to take off earlier in the season. Kind of lost his job to Demarcus Robinson. They bring Robinson back again. Doesn't bode well for old Tutu there. So this is a guy that's got the speed, but he's also like half a foot taller than him.
and has quite a bit, almost 50 pounds on him.
Yeah.
So that helps too. Yeah. No, I love that. As much as it pains us to say, like, the Rams are good for this year, but they got to start prepping for receiver just because, Cooper Kupp, as great as he is, as great as he, I think, still can be. You mentioned it, on the other side of 30, still working hard. We see the videos of him, working out. And I think, I'm hoping this is a huge comeback year for him. Like, nothing would make me or any Rams fan out there happier than him putting up 1,500 plus yards, 10 plus touchdowns, and showing that he still has it. But you gotta start prepping for the future, just in case he does continue to kind of slow down or that injury bug kind of hampers him, and plan for the future of who you're building around with Puka Nacua. They're I don't want to say lucky because it was planned, but they're fortunate that they hit on Puka Nacua. So they've already checked one box there, but now maybe 2-3 years from now, they want that next guy that's going to be taking that step up. So maybe it all starts with Bub. Not even Bubba, just Bub.
Just Bubs. Yeah.
Bub means,
well, and he comes from Pittsburgh, so he's good stock. That's where Aaron Donald went to college, so good stuff there.
There you go. Good connection there.
You're not the guy that's dug too deep into the draft, but you got a lot of knowledge about UCLA and USC guys. Do you think there's any fits for the Rams there?
Yeah, so I'll be diving a lot more into non-LA prospects here over the next month, with the combine wrapping up this weekend, and then as we get into real draft season. So hopefully I can provide a lot more for that. But obviously do have knowledge on the LA guys that we can touch on now. And before we do, real quick, mention our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Head to underdogfantasy.com or the Underdog Fantasy app. Use our promo code Rams LAFB. Gets you a welcome or a match deposit up to $100. You can play 2 to 5 players of any sport. Just choose the over-under, and you can 20x your earnings or winnings. Underdog Fantasy, tell them the guys the Rams Kenny sent you. Rams LAFB is that promo code. So let's start with, I don't want to talk about every single player, and obviously we already mentioned Latu last episode, as a potential pick at 19, so we won't get into him. But really, the remaining 10 USC and UCLA players at the combine, I think, could all fit with the Rams in some capacity. So I don't want to spend too much time and go through all 10. So let's start. We'll just kind of go a couple back and forth and kind of see where the time goes from there. But I want to start with a running back, since you mentioned, Isaiah out of South Dakota State, which I think would be a solid pick. But I would love to see Marshawn Lloyd in horns here with the Rams, projected, which, who really knows, especially at running back. Running back is so hit or miss, because what are the teams value? Like, his projection is so all over the place, but most people haven't projected in that like 4th round range. And here's a guy that is just, he's super built and chiseled. He's got great speed, great explosiveness. His eyes between the tackles, how he's able to explode through holes. I mean, he is super, super talented. And I think a guy that's going to surprise a lot of teams. He blew everyone away, at the Senior Bowl, and had really good work in those offseason stuff. And now we'll see him obviously in the next what is it, Saturday, I think, when running backs go out the combine. So we'll see him then. But Marshawn Lloyd, man, I think would be a great pick to be, connected with Kyren Williams as a 1-2 punch. Similar, I think, running styles. So I know some people like to have that differing style when you have a 1-2 punch. But I just think it's kind of one of those things. If they lean into it, you're never letting the throttle off with those two guys. And Marshawn Lloyd can bring the punishment too. So it's not like he's a guy that has the speed and finesse, and also you get to the goal line and you have no one that can do it. Because guess what? Kyren Williams, we know, can bring the punishment too. So you have two guys that have the speed and finesse, but still gives you that power element when you need it at goal line or goal to go situations or short yardage situations. So love Marshawn Lloyd. I think he'd be great. Want to hear your thoughts before I do, real quickly, for those listening on radio. Got to take a quick break. We'll be back at the bottom of the hour. But thank you for tuning in. For the rest of the episode, head to LAFBnetwork.com for the full Rams Skinny episode. But Skinny T, your thoughts on Marshawn Lloyd in horns?
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of a fun one to put two guys that are similarly sized and kind of similar skill sets. And I think that, I think Marshawn is probably a bit more of a better athlete than Kyren Williams. Has he missed any time off the top of your head? Do you know? I mean, because that's certainly something. Yeah.
He did miss, a little bit during the season. Nothing drastic. Covering USC, it really felt Lincoln Riley was very, maybe it could have been with how the season was going too, but was very protective, which I think is a good thing. Like, you want your coach to protect you, but I think there were moments that guys probably could have gone and he held them out a week longer just to get fully healthy, which I credit him for. But yes, Marshawn Lloyd did miss a little bit, but nothing like where it's like an injury concern kind of thing. Just nicked out.
Yeah, great. Sign me up then. I mean, the one big question I've always had about this offense is what would it look like if they had a true pass catching back out of the backfield? And it doesn't look like Marshawn Lloyd necessarily meets that need, but I think he looks like a Rams running back, if you know what I mean. If you look at the other guys that they've kind of had in that post Cam Akers, which is not that long, but that post Cam Akers time, he's
I'm glad
of a similar mold.
I'm glad you brought that up, just to piggyback, because the pass catching ability and the stats don't show it. So this is, I think, where hopefully we can provide good context that maybe other shows or other analysts that didn't watch a lot of USC, because statistically Lloyd doesn't show up in that category by having much, but I think his ability is very different. And there was talks all season long about from Lincoln Riley, from Caleb Williams, from the offense, of wanting to get him more involved in the passing game because of how great of his ability was. He's a pretty good pass catcher. I'm not saying he's like a receiver level pass catcher, but definitely has good enough hands to catch the ball in the backfield. And when you get him in space, I mean, that's all you want with this guy. He's a guy like I don't want to start throwing around like Christian McCaffrey like comparison, because he's not that. He's not on that level. But a guy that when you get him in space, that's when he can make good things happen. And so absolutely, I think he's a guy that they could utilize in the pass game. I think we saw Kyren Williams that too, that they wanted to use more. That just some games they use him a lot, some games they shy away, whether that was on Kyren, whether that was on Stafford, whatever it may be. But I think Marshawn Lloyd could absolutely be a factor as a pass catcher, because he has the ability, he has the talent. It was more just usage in the USC offense than ability.
Excellent. Yeah. I'd love to see that kind of pan out for the Rams. Who else you got?
All right, let's see. Do we want to keep it with SC? Do we want to? Yeah, okay. So I'll keep it with SC. We're talking receivers. Any of the two guys I think would be great. For the Rams specifically, I'll go with Brendan Rice as probably a little better fit. I love Taj Washington and I love them both, but I love Taj Washington and like his style of play, his mentality, his work ethic, his leadership, but he fits more of that like slot guy, which they kind of already have two of, right? With Puka and Cooper Kupp. Like he's smaller, 5'9". He's gonna get you the yardage you need, but he's more of a slot guy. Brendan Rice is a true X or Z receiver on the outside. He can be a home run guy. He's got elusive speed to break the top open. He gets decent separation. His hands got remarkably better from his first year with SC to last year, in terms of drops and whatnot. So wowed people at the Senior Bowl. So I just think his size, his speed, and what he would bring to the outside game is a great fit. And hey, anytime you can stick it to the Niners and get Jerry Rice's son on your squad, like why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah, there's an opportunity for the Rams to go after kind of 3 49er lineage guys. You got Brendan Rice, you got Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, and then you got Frank Gore Jr., who is obviously Frank Gore Sr.'s son. And I think he's like 5'7", 200 pounds. You know, shades of his father. Interesting and
We'll
fun
play
guy,
for 25 years. Yeah.
If you can hope so. Yeah. I've been really impressed with Brendan Rice kind of in the later part of his season, and then just through Senior Bowl, just really impressing everybody there. And I imagine he's going to impress some people with the combine, see what kind of athlete he is, just as a pure athlete kind of a guy. See what his explosiveness looks like. I wonder what it is that makes guy's hands get better. Is it? I read Jerry Rice's biography when I was in 8th grade, and he laid bricks. That's and so they were tossing him bricks.
Yeah,
if you can dodge a ball, you can dodge a brick, I guess. But
exactly.
I don't know how to asking for a friend, Quentin Johnston. How do you get a guy's hands better?
A lot of it is just, I can speak for myself, but a lot of it's just confidence. Like early on if you can be a good receiver or not. And I think Brendan Rice obviously has the lineage, but comes from Arizona, went to Colorado first, University of Colorado, before transferred to SC, and you could see the talent was there. But then I think his first year in the offense, he was just low on the totem pole. And so when his number was called, there was few and far between. And so that the confidence just wasn't quite there yet. And so it wasn't like he had like 18 drops or whatever. It was just like a couple, but they came at like in the end zone, or came at like big moments when it's like, oh, what's going on? Whereas this year, he was kind of him and Taj were the pseudo 1A, 1B receivers. They were leaned on a lot more. They got peppered a lot more. So you kind of get that rhythm, that confidence, and which we've talked a lot about Quentin Johnston. Not that this is a Chargers show, but we've talked a lot, through LAFB, is like, you got to just give the guy the rock, get his confidence up. Like, you can't throw to him once a game, and if he drops that once, think the world's falling and his career's over. So some guys if that keeps happening, then it's a bigger issue. But if it's a usage issue where it's like, okay, well, this guy has 3 drops, but he's been throwing the ball 8 times, like, let's double that. And if those drops double, then we have an issue. If those drops lessen, then it's just a confidence, kind of like a baseball player. You gotta get your reps. A golfer, whatever it may be, you kind of need your reps. And so, but also I think it's just the person too. Like, he went all in on the offseason. He's very coachable, great teammate. He's very down to earth. He's very confident, like a receiver is, like a Rice's son you would think would be. But he's also very humble. I mean, you talk to the kid, and he's a very humble, respectable guy, just confident in his game, which has improved. So love to see him in a Rams uniform. I think he'd be a great fit.
Yeah, with Taj, my only thing is, are the Rams going to take another under 6 foot, under 5'11" receiver, a la Tutu Atwell, which we rooted for him the whole time. You and I had his back, and it just hasn't worked out. So that's I don't know if that's going to happen again.
Yeah. I don't. Not because against Taj. I think Taj is going to be great. He's a different receiver than Tutu, but they already have 2 to 3 slot guys, so they really need like a true X. Because right now, I mean, when you look at the roster right now, their only really outside threat is Demarcus Robinson, right? Am I like forgetting someone? That's basically it. I mean, I know they can line up Puka on the outside. Skoranek, yeah. Like, so they need another true outside. So how would you feel as a rookie, as Brendan Rice, being a 3rd round, 4th round pick and potentially being a day 1 starter just out of necessity?
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
I think he can do it too.
Yeah. All right. I'll let me give one UCLA guy, and then I'll give one more SC to wrap up, and then we'll move on to the NFL, the center talk and NFL. We're going to go a full 45 minutes today. It's great. Love it. Yeah. More Rams talk. So Darius Mwasow, linebacker out of UCLA. So you mentioned the need for a linebacker for depth for Ernest Jones, and Mwasow, I think, is just a very capable player. They could get probably in the late rounds. Very sure tackler, a very cerebral player, very intelligent, very smart, and was a very, key factor for the UCLA defense that saw that huge turnaround from 2 years ago when they were ranked in the 80s to top 15 last year. I think 11th is what they finished in, and he was a major part of that. So a guy that I think they could just get in, it could bring and solidify that room and could continue to grow and do well. But he's another fit that I could see in the late rounds that, why not take a shot on him?
Yeah, and he was there before Deontay Lynn joined, right?
Correct. Yeah. So he transferred in 22 before the late Bill McGovern passed, and then he was there last year once Deontay Lynn came in.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive what they did with that defense. That you can have a guy that was there 1 year and the defense wasn't good, and then that guy just gets much better, which is a testament to Deontay Lynn for sure, but also a testament to this guy. I mean, you got to like that kind of improvement, and it shows that kind of coachability, that kind of willingness to get better and try new things and change and become a better linebacker. So I love that kind of attitude.
Yeah, and finished with 52 total tackles, only 12 missed tackles for the entire season. So good there, and was decent in coverage also. So not great in coverage, but that's not why you'd be drafting him. He'd be more of a run stopper, a true kind of old school style linebacker. So that just shows you how much scheme actually is pretty important. Specific for sure in college when the talent levels can be very different across the board. Pros, it's a little different just because you have so much, the talent's so much more even across the board. But in college, scheme means everything. Just ask USC and UCLA how the changes are. All right, last one I'll give here, and would love to see this one. But this is going to take an earlier pick. So this will go into what the Rams do with John Johnson and with Jordan Fuller in free agency, or if they sign someone else in free agency. Kalen Bullock, University of Southern California, safety, projected preseason as a first-round pick. I think he'll probably be more in the second round, maybe even slip to the third, just because this will be a very top-heavy quarterback draft, so it's going to push a lot of players down further. Wouldn't shock me at all if he still goes in the first because his ceiling's so good. He's still very young. He's a true junior. Still has braces on. So, I mean, he's still a young kid, good head on his shoulder, from Pasadena, California, right in my backyard, went to John Muir High School. But he would fill the role of probably a Jordan Fuller. Like, he's your true center fielder type safety. Like, he can get down in the box. He can bring the wood if needed, but he's best when he can play center field, survey the field, and then jump a route and go up and get an interception at the high point. That's where he's his best. So if the Rams decide not to bring back Jordan Fuller, I would like them to target him, whether it's second round or, if he somehow slips that early third, maybe trade up in that third to go get him, because I think he'd be a great fit, could potentially start day one, and he would just continue his LA lineage all on through from John Muir to USC to the LA Rams.
Yeah, he can just go sleep in his childhood bedroom. He doesn't got to get a new apartment or anything over in Thousand Oaks. Yeah, no, I like this guy a lot. I like his length. I like
great length.
I like his ball skills, his ball hot. Like, he's really impressive just going after the ball. It's not something that they've had in the past, really, that kind of guy that's willing to do that. But I think, looking at the Rams forced turnovers from last year in the bottom 10, I'm sure maybe even the bottom 5 or so, somewhere in that range. They didn't create a lot of turnovers, and this guy would change that. That would, add some excitement, and, you can win games. That was a big criticism of this defense, as good as they did play, is that they weren't going out and winning you a game. The offense always had to go out and win the game. The special teams wasn't winning the games, and the defense wasn't winning games. They were keeping them in games, but they weren't winning them. And turnovers can change that. So,
100%.
Gotta love that.
Yeah, 100%. Only on a football podcast can you talk about a dude's length and ball skills and feel okay about it. So, well done there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Would love to, we always love seeing when SC and UCLA guys stay right here in LA and get drafted by the Rams. It seems we've had some luck throughout the years of that happening. Trying to think back if one have. I know the Chargers drafted one last year. The Rams. I'm trying to.
Well, you got Quentin Lake. You got Tuli Pelotu.
Both, yeah. Oh yeah, Thule went to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the Rams' 19 draft picks last year, who they all were. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Moving on, but yeah, hopefully we can keep another one with the 11 picks this year. Any of those guys would be great. Like I said, you can look at all of our draft coverage we have up there. Skinny T's doing a great job getting our draft profiles up. Any of the 11 guys at the combine, I think would fit with the Rams. Gabriel Murphy is a guy from UCLA, edge rush. If they don't go a lot too early, or not just Latu, if they don't go edge early, Gabriel Murphy's a guy in later rounds. I think it'd be a great fit. Brings a tenacity, real like bring your lunch pill to work type guy. Like I think I love that term. Just love saying. I had to get that in the podcast somewhere. So he would be great. Really, any of these guys, I think. Solomon Byrd, another, edge from USC. Dude transferred from Wyoming to USC, has a family, has like 2 kids, was still in college, leader of the defense, and like led the team in sacks. So I mean, he's just a guy that he wants it, right? Like those are the guys you want on your roster that have talent level, but have a little bit more behind it that they're working for. So we'd love to see him there. But let's move on. No centers on the roster. Coleman Shelton opts out of his contract. Both Les Snead and others in the organization have said that they want Coleman Shelton back, of course. Why wouldn't you? Do you, Skinny T, think he will be back? Or the Rams going to be searching in free agency plus the draft? Because, you got to have 2 to 3 centers on the roster entering training camp.
I think they got to get him. I think they got to get him back. I wrote the article about the 3 centers to watch. Using draft capital on a center is fine, but starting a center from the first year as a fresh or as a rookie, it's not ideal. You want a guy with experience. You want a guy that has seen it all and is unflappable, and that's hard to do coming into your first year in the NFL. Coleman Shelton did a lot of good things. It wasn't all perfect. According to PFF, he allowed the second most pressures of any center in the league last season, but he was great in the run blocking. He's part of that tandem right in the middle, the trio, I guess, right in the middle of Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, and Coleman Shelton that really unlocked what Kyren Williams could do in the running game. And that's when that season turned around. That's what last season turned around, was when Kyren Williams really got the running game going, and it was up behind those guys. Kevin Dotson, also a guy that's a free agent. That's going to be a more difficult one. You look at over the cap's valuation for Coleman Shelton. It's just $4 million. That's all. That's $2 million more than he was getting paid if he had not void. Yeah, nothing, nothing at all. And it just kind of depends. He's 29 years old. How long of a contract do the Rams want to offer him, and how long does he want? I think that's probably the big variable there. I think he's probably thinking this is going to be the last contract that he can cash in on, and good for him. That's what he should be doing. He should be setting himself and his family up for the rest of their lives if he can. So testing the free agency. And it's weird how many teams seem to need centers this year.
Yeah.
Offensive line across the board is just kind of atrocious. On some teams, you're looking at, Chargers, 49ers, New York Giants, Miami Dolphins, like all these places need centers. So, it'll be interesting to see. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you both Coleman Shelton and Kevin Dotson are back. I think the offensive line played really well last year. Hats off to the offensive line coach and what they were able to accomplish. And I think we've talked many times about that's the one position. I mean, it's important everywhere, but by far the most on the offensive line is continuity is like so crucial. And you unlink one of those cogs and insert one other person, and it can throw everything off. I mean, you look at, I know we've brought up the Chargers multiple times on the show, so I apologize, but you look at the Chargers, 2 years ago, they lose Rashawn Slater beginning of the season, their star left tackle. They slide their rookie Jeremy Salyer over and make him play left tackle, and their offensive line actually played pretty dang well. This year, when they thought they had full strength, Slater back, they put Salyer over at right guard. Offensive line played really poor. Now, they ended up losing Corey Linsley midway through the season, who is their center. and they're also needed that. So, I mean, that's a different story too, but it just shows that continuity is so crucial. So I think they got to make an effort to at least coax both guys to be back. I think we said last episode when we looked that Kevin Dotson his market value maybe like 15, 16 million average per year, which is wild for an offensive guard. I mean, that's top 3 in the whole league when you look at offensive guards. So do the Rams want to spend that? They haven't. I don't want to say they haven't historically spent that on offensive line because Andrew Whitworth got a nice payday. Rob Havenstein got a nice payday. Joe Noteboom got paid. He wasn't like a top paid guy, but he got overpaid. That's for sure. So maybe they will shell out for a guy like Dotson. Let me ask you this, and then we can probably move on to the NFLPA stuff. If Coleman Shelton is not retained, but they keep Kevin Dotson, which I think we both agree if it's one or the other, Dotson's the one they got to get, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, he's probably in the top 10% of guards right now.
Okay. I agree. So if Dotson's retained, Coleman Shelton's not. 0 centers on the roster. They're going to add no matter what through the draft or free agency. I mean, no matter what they're going to add. I don't necessarily say, I'm not saying I want to do this, but we can talk about it. I've seen out there a lot of people saying, well, what if you slide Steve Avila over to center, who played center some at TCU in college? So that's an option to do. I'll give my take on why I wouldn't want to do that. But worst case scenario, keep Kevin Dotson. I think every Rams fan probably agrees that's what you need to do, number 1 overall. And then you have the option to slide him over. And then you maybe have some depth pieces that you can move over to that guard position that Avila was playing. So your thoughts on that? Do you like that? Do you hate that? What would you rather do? And then I'll just say this real quick. If you're on radio, that's all the time we got for the LA football segment here on the Mightier 1090. So thank you all for hanging out with us. We're going to keep going here on podcast. So make sure to head over to LAFBnetwork.com, look up the Rams Skinny, and we're going to finish this statement from Skinny T, and then we'll get into our NFLPA stuff. So thank you all for hanging out on your commute. But anyway, go ahead on your thoughts on that scenario.
Well, Steve Avila was my projection to play center this year, so
Yeah.
I thought that's where they were going to go. So I like that portion of it. He's incredibly smart. He's obviously incredibly talented. He didn't seem like a rookie, which is great. That's what you want to see, especially at offensive line. So I could see them moving them inside. Then the that opens it up so that you can draft another guard. Maybe a couple from. There was Grant. I've already forgotten his name. The guy from Duke that I brought up last week.
Oh yeah.
He would be a good option. He can play guard. He can play center. So center. I think even if you do go with Avila at center, you want to find another guy in free agency. Somebody that's going to be that kind of Coleman Shelton price range, where that just in case he can't figure it out through training camp, you got somebody that's got some experience that can get you through. Center isn't having the best center in the league isn't going to win you a Super Bowl. I don't think ever. But so this is a position you need somebody that's good enough. He doesn't need to be great. He just needs to be good enough.
Yeah, I have kind of mixed thoughts on it because I think there's definitely talent there that Avila, like you said, played center. You kind of thought he would be the center going into this year, so I think he would be fine there. My worry is that I thought he played really well at guard. So part of me is like, why switch it up? Like, you don't want to all of a sudden change. We saw what's happened in the past with like a Logan Brust, right? When you try to move him maybe from a position he's not totally comfortable with, it stunts his growth and development. Now they're trying to move him back to originally, and he's on the P squad and stuff like that. But, a guy that played that position naturally, I think you would have thought it would have been the opposite effect, right? Like when they moved him to guard, you would have thought there would have been a struggle, but it wasn't. So maybe he's just adverse to that and can play both. So I wouldn't hate it. The only other thing I'll add is that they really don't have a lot of guard depth either. So, I mean, you're looking at Tremaine Ankrum basically is your only depth. And then Joe Noteboom can play guard if they're going to keep him on the roster. But I don't think anyone feels great about him being one of the starting 5 regardless. So regardless of what they do, whether they slide him over or get Coleman Shelton, they're going to have to add an interior offensive lineman in probably both free agency and the draft. So I think we that's going to have to happen, I think, regardless, right?
Yeah, and Logan Bruss, that's pulling the Band-Aid off a little too soon. I forgot about that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's out there somewhere. Out there somewhere.
He's still around. We'll see what happens. Maybe he's their answer at guard this year.
For how good as the Rams have been at drafting, they've also had a lot of whiffs. So Logan Bruss, still young, can prove people wrong on the P squad. Would love to see him prove people wrong. Obviously, some injury inhibited that. So we'll see. But all right, let's wrap this up. We don't have to spend a ton of time since we're already at 45 minutes. But the NFLPA rankings came out yesterday, Skinny T. The report cards over 1,700 athletes or so were basically every player was given a grading scale, and you can look up what this grading scale is and how they weigh it and whatnot. But the Rams didn't come in great in terms of rating. They got a head coach, Sean McVay, was an A, which you would expect, which finished fourth, I guess. I don't know. Again, I don't know how they exactly decide that afterwards, who came in first, second, or third. Do you remember who came first, second, or third? I didn't look at the whole list.
Well, yeah, it was. Well, yeah,
I know Belichick came in last, right?
Did he?
I think Belichick came last. Yeah.
Well. This is interesting because they come in overall, 20th place in the league. Now you go over and you take a look at how the Chiefs did in this as well. Their owner got an F, maybe even an F minus. I don't know if that's a thing, but Andy Reid got an A plus. So, there were 3 A pluses in the league, and so that means that Sean McVay scored the best of anybody that didn't get an A plus.
Yeah.
And so there's no correlation to winning here, and obviously the Chiefs are the gold standard right now of winning organizations, and they didn't score very well either in this. So, you look at kind of like some of the criteria they're looking at, they're like, there's not enough hot tubs or cold tubs, and it's these are things that are only concerning to some football players, and like some of the bad grades are even like 85% of the roster thought this, so it's like it's not as bad as it seems. Now I think if you're playing or if you're working for any kind of organization, corporation that's making billions of dollars, the cafeteria should be good. You shouldn't have to pay for your child's daycare on game days. I think they can foot the $50 or whatever. But John, you look at some of the high marks for the Rams. You've got head coach, strength coaches, training staff, team travel. Yeah. These all, are in kind of pretty much in the top half of the league. You look at some of the other ones, it's all facilities based. Yeah. And, you and I have been to the Rams facilities in Thousand Oaks. It's not impressive. No, it's not Jerry World.
No. And yeah, I don't take a ton of stock in this too, because it's all anonymous. What's the expectation is my thought, right? This is what's so hard about this, because this is all like work environment. It's not like your love for the team or like the winning culture. Like you said, it's strictly day-to-day work environment. So what's the expectation? And a lot of this could be, and I'm not just saying this to defend the Rams, because they definitely need improvements in some areas, but a lot of this could be like a ex-player came from one team, comes to the Rams, and he's like, oh, wow, well, I way like the facilities better there. I'm grading this an F because those were way better. Rams guy maybe was drafted by the Rams, knows no better, and he's like, well, this is way better than my college, so this is a B to me because this is pretty good. So it's like, what's the expectation? What's it weighted against? And I know they put like a weighted scale you can look at, but it's still it's all human emotion, what you're saying. The thing I'll just add to that is kind of defending the Rams is, their facility, which I'm still shocked has taken so long, but obviously all the money went to SoFi, which is the best game day facility in the world. So, but because they're still in a essentially rental trailer park facility on Cal Lutheran campus, Like it's not a true NFL facility. Like it's literally all, we've been there many times. It's all like trailers at the corner of campus where they have like an open field and then their weight room's right there, which is a tiny weight room. I mean, they don't have a true NFL facility. So when their new one finally does open in Woodland Hills, a lot of these marks are going to change because, I mean, they'll have an actual locker room. They'll have all these different things. So I might putting a whole stock in those just because literally they're working in like, it'd be like if they're staying at like their friend's apartment, basically, is what they're doing for facilities right now.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked about a couple. One, you mentioned SoFi Stadium. Brand new locker rooms. Los Angeles Rams players vote theirs as a D plus, 25th in the league.
So
For the worst locker rooms.
Those locker rooms are the Thousand Oaks locker rooms, not the SoFi locker rooms.
Okay. All right,
So
that
those are
makes a lot
the
more sense.
yeah, exactly. Because I said to him like, no way, like those locker rooms are unbelievable. Yeah, this is the day-to-day practice off season. So it's the Thousand Oaks like
Good
trailer park locker rooms. Literally, like they're semi trucks that have wheeled in little. Can't think of the word right now. What are those? The big crates called? But anyway,
they're like modular, like storage.
Modulars. There you go.
Yeah. The other one, Stan Kroenke got a C plus, 22nd in the league, and maybe this is just tied all to everything else that we've talked about. Food and cafeteria got a D, 29th in the league. Let's get these guys some. I'll go out there and cook for them. I can whip up a heck of an omelet.
Yeah. See, food. That's the one that's like the food one and the treatment of families one is the one like, okay, that doesn't matter where you're located, where like food, you can still, I don't care if you're cafe, but a lot of it, I've been reading stuff too. This isn't about the Rams specifically, but a lot of it's like some teams like don't have 3 meals available to them every day. Some teams charge on certain days. Some teams on off days, the cafeteria is closed. So like, I don't know if you looked into more of the Rams, but like what that D entails is it might be closed on off days. So then someone's like, okay, well, if I can't even like get food on the off day, then that would be something.
So this one has nothing to do with those. So the Rams is 31st overall in food taste and 28th overall in food freshness. I mean, we're in the food mecca of the world, Los Angeles, California, that we're growing fresh vegetables. Like, let's get these guys something good to eat, for goodness sakes. They're putting their bodies on the line. Let's fill them up with something hearty and good.
Right. And yeah, the treatment of families was a D. They provide a family room at the stadium. They provide daycare on game day. So I guess that means they don't provide daycare throughout the week, I'm guessing.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Well, I read the Chargers, and that's where the whole paying for their own daycare. So they have daycare, but they make the players pay like $50, or $80, and then $50 for every additional child. It's just like,
gotcha.
I mean, I know these guys can afford it, but it's just like, they're putting on a show out there. Come on.
Yeah, I know it's always so funny to think about because it's like you don't think, like when you think about it on the surface, you're like, what the heck? Like the team doesn't provide like free daycare and all this stuff. But then you think of any other job, like how many jobs out there actually provide free daycare for their employees? Like I would love to do that for us if we ever got to that point. But when you if you find a job out there that provides free daycare, that is like a huge perk. That's a huge, like, I'm not saying there's not out there. I haven't, I'm not going to admit that I've applied to a ton of corporate jobs. So maybe there are more than I think, but I've never seen it. I mean, I've been in the workforce since I was 15 years old. So I've never seen any job where they're like, oh yeah, free daycare. So it's funny that that's like the assumption, like NFL players should get that. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but 95% of jobs probably don't get that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully the treatment of family things doesn't extend beyond, kind of some of these smaller things.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, based on what players say, everyone seems to love the organization. So I wouldn't think so. But anyway, anything else to add on that before we wrap this thing up?
No, go check it out though. It's kind of interesting to see what they're rating these things on, and if you kind of dig into it a little bit more, the context around it is, they're all pretty happy. I think they're just kind of voicing their opinions because they can.
Yeah, like if you got asked, like you would always want to see improvement, right? Every employee would want to see like, oh, this would be cool to have this, that, but I don't think anyone's like, I'm miserable. Like this is toxic to come into work every day. I mean, that's that happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Maybe the Cardinals, who graded at like F at every single category, is that scenario, but not with the Rams.
Yeah. I would love to kind of tour and get the vibe of like what's it like at Kansas City that everybody's like I think I read that like their hot tubs are gross. It was the quote.
Yeah, I didn't read into them, but my assumption would just be everything's very old and outdated. It just feels like, I mean, Arrowhead's, again, this is their training facility, not the stadium, but Arrowhead itself is one of the oldest stadiums. So I have a feeling their training facilities are probably pretty old. And so they maybe just haven't been updated. Are their bikes still like the wind fan machines? Like, is that what they're riding bikes? They're not like all nice now?
They have those jiggle machines.
Yeah. I mean, if I was them, I wouldn't be complaining though. I mean, 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. I'm like, why change it? I think we're doing okay.
Well, exactly. And that just kind of points out that probably the most important part is the coach. You know, is this a guy that you're going to play for? Are you going to run through walls for? You're going to run into a burning building for? And McVay's that guy. And that's why a lot of people love playing for him. A lot of people stick around.
Well, and the funny thing, and this is probably what like organizations think when they're talking about like investing money, is a good majority of the players like work out on their own private stuff anyway. Like they don't even use the facilities. They might have to practice, do a couple weights and obviously team mandated workouts. But Pat Mahomes, I mean, anyone that watched Quarterback, the show on Netflix, like he's doing all his private workouts at this unbelievable facility. He's not even using the team facilities. So they're like, why am I improving this if no one's going to be here?
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that will do it for us here at the Ram Skinny. Thank you all for hanging out. Longer episode today. A lot to get into. A lot of fun between me and Skinny T. Hope you all enjoyed it. Everyone have a great weekend. The Combine is off and rolling. Plenty of fun stuff to watch throughout the weekend. And we'll be back on Monday, probably recapping that and really getting into free agency, as we are a mere 2 weeks away from the legal, always a funny word, tampering period beginning for free agency. So for Skinny T, I'm Ryan Dard. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Everyone have a great weekend. Talk to you all next week.